We've all been there, right? You swear you remember something happening in a specific way. You can even picture it in your mind as clear as day. But then someone tells you it didn't happen that way at all. It's not just a moment of confusion, it's a glitch in your memory, a distortion. And sometimes, this little twist of the truth can lead us down a path to believing things that aren't true. But what's happening inside our brains when this happens? Why do we misremember? And what does that mean for things like conspiracy theories, cryptic mysteries, and even the Mandela Effect? Let's first take a step back and look at how memory works. We tend to think of our memories as little snapshots of life, perfectly preserved in our minds. You remember your first day of school or your best friend's wedding like it just happened yesterday, right? But what if I told you that your brain isn't storing memories like photos in an album, but more like a fluid, ever changing story that gets rewritten over time? That's right, memory is not as reliable as we think. Here's how it goes. When you experience something, your brain creates a trace of that event. This trace is stored in your hippocampus, the brain's filing cabinet. But this storage system isn't perfect. Every time you recall a memory, the brain doesn't pull out the original, unchanged version. Instead, it rebuilds the memory, and it's easy for our brains to add new details or sometimes lose key pieces entirely. That's why sometimes our memories feel distorted. So, why do we misremember things? Why does our brain twist the truth? Or worse, erase important details altogether? The short answer: because our memories aren't stored perfectly. But there are deeper reasons why this happens. When you recall a memory, your brain essentially reconstructs it. Just like a house built from bricks, sometimes the foundation is solid, but other times the bricks are scattered, misplaced, or mixed up with others. New experiences or information can influence how we remember past events. This is why eyewitness testimonies in court are often unreliable. The details we add or distort in our minds could be influenced by something we saw or heard much later. Another factor is confirmation bias, our tendency to interpret information in a way that confirms our existing beliefs. If you believe something strongly, you're more likely to remember events in a way that supports that belief. For example, if you believe in a conspiracy theory, you might recall details from a past event that fit the narrative of that conspiracy, even if they never really happened that way. Sometimes, our memories are influenced by what others say or by things we read. Ever heard someone else's version of an event and thought, yeah, that's how I remember it too? Well, that's because our memories are vulnerable to suggestion. If someone tells you something enough times, or if it's repeated in the media, your brain may insert it into your own recollection, even if it wasn't true. That's how false memories are created. And this brings us to something that's been puzzling people for years: the Mandela Effect. For those who aren't familiar, the Mandela Effect is a phenomenon where a large group of people collectively misremember an event or fact in the same way. The name came from the fact that some people thought they remembered Nelson Mandela dying in the 1980s, when in reality he didn't pass away until 2013. So, why do so many people remember the same thing, even though it didn't happen? One theory is that it's a combination of faulty memory and the power of suggestion. When a lot of people are exposed to the same false information, whether through media, conversations, or social media, it becomes part of their collective memory. And once it's embedded in your mind, it's hard to shake off, even when you know it's wrong. You might start seeing proof of it everywhere, and your brain just accepts it as truth. For example, the famous line from Star Wars: Luke, I'm your father. What if I told you that's not the line at all? It's actually, no, I'm your father. But how many of you thought the former was true for years? And it's not just Star Wars that's involved. Take the popular brand of peanut butter, Jif. You've probably seen the logo with a little jar and the Jif name on it, right? Well, If you're like thousands of others, you may have also remembered the logo as Jiffy, not Jif. There's no record of a Jiffy peanut butter brand, but so many people remember it that way, and they swear by it. This is a classic Mandela Effect example. Let's go a step further. How about the Monopoly man? Picture him in your head. Does he have a monocle? Well, guess what? He doesn't. In fact, the Monopoly man has never had a monocle. Yet, millions of people believe he did. The power of memory distortion is at play here, and it's one of the most mind bending examples of the Mandela effect. Speaking of mysteries, let's dive into cryptic, unsolved cases. How does memory come into play when people try to solve them? Think about the mysterious disappearances or unsolved crimes that have been in the public eye for decades. One thing they all have in common is how the public's memory of events can shape how the story is retold. Take the case of the Black Dahlia murder. Over the years, details have been added, others have been twisted, and new theories have emerged. What was once a mysterious, unsolved crime became a canvas for people's imaginations, influenced by what they thought they knew, based on partial facts, distorted memories, or newly fabricated theories. This is the same psychology at play when we explore ancient mysteries like the lost city of Atlantis or the Loch Ness Monster. Our brains latch onto the unknown, filling in gaps with our imagination and, at times, memories we've altered over time. These memories get distorted so much that they turn into legends, perpetuated through generations. So, why is all of this important? Why should we care that our memories aren't perfect? Well, knowing how memory works or doesn't work can help us understand why we might believe in things that aren't true. It can also explain why certain conspiracy theories or unsolved mysteries have such a magnetic pull on people's minds. Our brains are designed to remember things that are important to us. And sometimes that means remembering events in a way that fits our desires, our fears, or our beliefs. So the next time you feel absolutely certain about something, ask yourself, is that memory really how it happened? Or has your brain altered it, just a little, to fit a narrative that feels right? Our memories shape who we are, but they're not always as reliable as we think. As we've seen, our brains are great at reconstructing the past, but sometimes they reconstruct it in ways that don't quite match reality. So, the next time someone tells you that you're misremembering an event, or if you start to doubt your own recollections, remember, you might not be wrong, just human. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the mysterious workings of our minds. If you enjoyed this deep dive into memory, misremembering, and the Mandela effect, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share your own experiences in the comments below. Let's keep exploring the mind's maze together. Until next time, remember, sometimes the truth is stranger than our memories. Stay curious and never stop questioning.